Is West Dakota Fox News at 9 with Molly Martinez and meteorologist Henry Blakes. Your first news of the night starts right now on West Dakota Fox News at 9.
Good evening, I'm Molly Martinez. 2 days after the deadly massacre at a Florida high school, a community is demanding answers. Reporter Lauren Blanchard found out there were warning signs, and those signs were ignored.
We are looking into his social media posts, his movements, his conversations leading up to the shooting, as well as any other indicators that may be out there.
The FBI revealing they were warned back in January that 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz had guns, was exhibiting erratic behavior, and had mentioned wanting to attack Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. In a stunning revelation, the agency says proper protocol was not followed and Cruz was never investigated. Just over a month later, Cruz returned to his former school, opening fire on students and teachers, killing 17, and leaving families in the Parkland community shattered.
In the morning, sometimes things get so crazy, she runs out behind and she's like, I gotta go, Dad, bye. And I don't always get to say, I love you. I don't remember if I said that to Jamie yesterday morning.
The Parkland shooting is the latest in a string of deadly attacks on America's schools, with more than 24 fatal shooting incidents since Columbine in 1999. Many in Washington now calling on Congress to act and address the issue of gun violence in America.
Meantime, funeral services were held today for 2 of the victims. In the coming days, we're going to see 15 more. 14-year-old Alyssa Alderhoff and 18-year-old Meadow Pollock were laid to rest today. Hundreds gathered to mourn the girls. Alyssa's parents say she was an honor student. Meadow was enjoying her senior year and was looking forward to prom. The deadly shots fired Wednesday came from an AR-15. According to the NRA, it's the most popular rifle in America. Today, Megan Hoffman talked to a local gun store owner about the controversial weapon.
By the books.
Brandon Charvet has owned Mandan Sporting Goods for almost 9 years. He says the AR-15 is one of the most popular guns he sells. In order to buy one, you fill out a firearms transaction record and the employees input it into a database. As long as you're approved, you can walk out of the store minutes later with the gun.
The FBI makes the decision if it's approved or denied or delayed.
After a shooting at a high school on Wednesday, many gun opponents are asking for a ban on these and other types of semi-automatic weapons. One of the main arguments is that military-style weapons should not be in the hands of private citizens. According to the National Shooting Sports Foundation, there are more than 10 million AR-15s owned by Americans. Proponents of the gun say most of those are used for self-defense and hunting purposes.
You buy something like this for prairie dog hunting or coyote, you have 30 rounds there before you have to reload.
Charvet says in the last year he hasn't seen sales increase after mass shootings, but in the previous 8 years under the Obama administration, sales would skyrocket after incidents like the one in Florida this week.
Especially after that Sandy Hook shooting. I mean, to try to find an AR you couldn't. I mean, there was just none available. None of my vendors, distribution centers had anything even for me to buy.
Charvet says he hasn't received a call about an AR-15 since the shooting Wednesday, and when he talked to one of his distributors on Thursday, they hadn't received any calls about the gun either. For West Dakota Fox News at 9, I'm Megan Hoffman.
Time now is 9:03. Let's take our first check on weather with meteorologist Henry Blakes.
Hey, we've got a little bit of snow activity right now.
Our other top story tonight, a few weeks ago, Congressman Kevin Cramer said he would not seek a Senate run. Today, he changed his mind. Bo Evans was there.
Today, I'm making it official. I am seeking the Republican Party's nomination to be your candidate for the United States Senator from North Dakota.
It's the heavyweight fight we've all been waiting for. Kevin Cramer announced his campaign for Heidi Heitkamp's U.S. Senate seat. Cramer says the importance of North Dakota's vote is why he decided to run.
When I think about, Obamacare repeal failing by just one vote and it was hers, when I think about the flaring and venting rule repeal failing by one vote and it was hers.
Cramer's entrance into the Senate race forced out Republican Tom Campbell, who will now run for Cramer's House seat. However, not everyone is a fan of the state's lone congressman.
Kevin Cramer has a 24% voting record with working people, so I wanted to see what it was all about.
Likely just the start of what is sure to be one of the wildest elections in state history. For West Dakota Fox News at 9, I'm Bo Evans.
Among the crowd at today's rally, known white supremacist Peter Teft. The Fargo native gained notoriety after the violent clashes in Charlottesville. Today he tweeted from the event, quote, "Kramer runs for Senate. United, we drain the swamp." As we told you earlier this week, this year's Senate race includes a candidate who has been convicted of soliciting a prostitute and sexually explicit text messages to an undercover police officer. Paul Schaffner was arrested in a prostitution sting last May. Evidence released by the court shows Schaffner was responding to an ad on Backpage.com trying to solicit a woman for sex. Text messages between the Senate hopeful and the police show he was interested in purchasing a half hour with the woman for $120. Evidence shows he also inquired about bringing sex toys along. Schaffner announced his candidacy for the Senate on Monday. We reached out to Schaffner for comment, but he hasn't returned our calls. Everyone throwing their hat in the ring is hoping to unseat incumbent Heidi Heitkamp. The senator released a statement a few hours ago saying, quote, "North Dakotans aren't interested in petty political infighting and want a U.S. senator who works with Republicans and Democrats to find real solutions, just as I have done during my time in the Senate. It's a true honor for me to serve our state, and I hope to continue to serve because I still have work to do." In legal news, today in Dickinson, a key witness in a motel murder trial takes the stand. Reporter Daniela Hurtado was there.
Molly Todd Pisciano was on the stand for most of the day. Only one other person testified before him, and he was on that stand since 10 in the morning Mountain Time. Pisciano recalls the night of Johnson's murder. He shared gruesome details about what he witnessed when he dropped by to give the suspects a job application. Once inside the room, he says he was not allowed to leave by both suspects, and he cooperated. He claims Swanson hit Johnson with a flashlight behind the head.
2 to 3 times. 2 to 3 times more than once. In a row. Yes. And you thought he was threatening you when he was doing that? Well, he did make a remark about this is what happens to snitches.
He says he was afraid and listened to the suspects because he didn't want to die. Pisciano will also be on trial in connection to this case for a hindering law enforcement charge. According to court records, his scheduled date for that trial is on May 30th. We will be back here for Swanson and West murder trial on Tuesday, and we will bring you the latest. Reporting for West Dakota Fox News at 9 from Dickinson, I'm Daniela Hurtado.
An airman stationed at a Minot Air Force Base was killed in a crash yesterday on Highway 83 near Ruthville. According to the Highway Patrol, 21-year-old William Buchanan was seriously hurt when his southbound car collided with a westbound semi that failed to yield. Buchanan later died at Trinity Hospital. He was a native of Raleigh, North Carolina, and a senior airman at the base. The 31-year-old semi-driver was not hurt. Both men were wearing their seatbelts. Authorities in Montreal County are making a grisly discovery. They say they found a man's body inside a burning pickup truck. It happened southeast of Stanley. The sheriff says they were following a cell phone signal of a man who had been reported missing. It says the man appears he got stuck on a maintenance road and drove into a field, and then he got stuck in the snow. As he continuously spun his tires to get free, the tires caught fire and spread to the rest of the truck. The man's identity has not yet been released. A 33-year-old Williston man was killed in a rush hour road rage incident in Minnesota. Police say it started after a car accident on the highway north of Minneapolis. One of the drivers, 33-year-old Simon Schiffler from Williston, was acting erratically. Witnesses say he grabbed a large knife and attempted to assault another driver. That's when an armed bystander who was not involved in the crash intervened by firing a weapon and hitting Schiffler in the face. He was taken to a local hospital where he died. The man who shot him stayed on scene and cooperated with officers. Police say the shooter was not taken into custody. A Minot woman will be on probation for the next 2 years. Police say 24-year-old Chelsea Erie left her 2 preschool-aged children in the car while she and her boyfriend went to go drink and gamble. The officers say Erie was already on probation for leaving the scene of an accident back in September. Still ahead, 13 Russian nationals are indicted for interfering with the U.S. election. We'll show you what they're accused of doing.
And we've got snow and colder temperatures underway for the weekend. More details after the break.
Welcome back. Shocking new details tonight in the investigation into Russian meddling in the U.S. election. Today, 13 Russian nationals are indicted. accused of interference that dates back as early as 2014. Karen Kaifa picks up the story from Washington.
A grand jury has indicted 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian entities for alleged meddling in the 2016 U.S. presidential election, with activity beginning as early as 2014.
The defendants allegedly conducted what they called information warfare against the United States, with the stated goal of spreading distrust towards the candidates and the political system in general.
A Russian foreign ministry spokeswoman has called the indictments absurd. The announcement was made by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, a former Trump campaign advisor, recused himself from the Russia investigation last year. But the charges are the result of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation, looking into Russian meddling in the 2016 campaign, including any connections between Russia and the Trump campaign. Rosenstein said the allegations do not point to any Americans as willing participants.
The nature of the scheme was that the defendants took extraordinary steps to make it appear that they were ordinary American political activists.
The indictment alleges the Russians posed as American citizens, operated social media accounts aimed at U.S. audiences, and set up rallies around the U.S., including in election battlegrounds like Florida. They allegedly manipulated information about a number of candidates, but by mid-2016 supported Trump and disparaged Hillary Clinton. President Trump was briefed on the indictments by Rosenstein. The president has long dismissed talk of Russian interference in the election as a hoax. The charges are the first handed down for meddling in the 2016 election. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Twitter is announcing a new initiative to stop the spread of fake news. The social media platform plans to begin broadcasting local TV news stations along their timeline during breaking news events. They did a test run yesterday. Twitter says they will rely on partnerships with regional news stations to select which footage will be placed on the site. And tense moments today in Des Moines, Washington, following reports of gunfire on Highline College campus. Heavily armed law enforcement officials raced to the scene looking for any sign of a possible gunman. After about an hour, officials said they found no evidence of a shooting, nor were there any victims. After this week's deadly massacre at a Florida high school, one Washington gun seller is now making a push to raise the age to purchase a weapon. Jason Cases, who owns lowpriceguns.com, has been selling guns for the past 15 years. He says he wants the legal age to buy an AR-15 to be bumped from 18 to 21. Cray says kids under 21 are not emotionally mature enough to handle the guns. A young father and his toddler son were fatally stabbed in Missouri last night. It happened in Maryland Heights. Police say 2 other victims were critically injured in the attack. Officials say one of the suspects, 20-year-old Trayvon Sims, is related to the victims. Both suspected killers are in police custody and are being held without bond. In business news, Amazon just settled a $1.2 million lawsuit with the EPA. It stems from Amazon's involvement in the sale and distribution of illegal pesticides. Regulators claim Amazon allowed independent vendors to sell forms of insecticide and cockroach bait powder on their websites. Astronauts at the International Space Station just finished their months-long repair project. They fixed the station's giant robotic arm. The robotic arm is used to move heavy equipment and astronauts around the outside of the research laboratory. Today's spacewalk is the 3rd this year. And from the moon to the lunar year. Celebrations kicked off today in Beijing. A group of visitors lit off firecrackers and prayed for good fortune and health as the start of the Year of the Dog. And celebrations are also underway in Indonesia right now. Hundreds gathered at Jakarta's Dharma Bakti temple for the occasion. The festival itself will last 15 days, with families celebrating huge feasts and taking part in street parades. And a pint-sized hero coming to the rescue this Valentine's Day. 8-year-old Andrew Ramirez saw 7-year-old friend Michaela Annis choking on a gummy bear. She was unable to breathe. The little guy calmly walked up to her and administered the Heimlich. What's more surprising is Andrew's dad, who's a doctor, didn't even realize his son knew what the Heimlich was. That's true friendship. And over to my friend, meteorologist Henry Blakes.
Yes, you're my friend too. We've got snow out there right now to the south.
The president's new infrastructure plan comes with a pretty big price tag. To pay for it, President Trump is considering what could be the first fuel tax in nearly 20 years. John Salling has the story.
25-cent increase in the price of gas could cause motorists to pinch some pennies at the pump in the coming months.
That's quite the increase. I'm not really comfortable with that much, as our gas prices are already fairly high at the moment.
Well, nobody likes to see gases go up, but you know, we have to pay for the road somehow, unless they can figure out another way.
Senator John Hoeven says we need to pass the infrastructure package to rebuild our nation's critical infrastructure, but there isn't enough support in Congress currently to raise the gas tax.
I suppose with the thought process in mind, if that was in fact where it goes, I wouldn't be entirely against it, because the infrastructure has needed a lot of tender, loving care right now, and it hasn't gotten any in a while.
The current federal gas tax is 18.4 cents a gallon, and diesel is taxed at 24.4 cents a gallon. For West Dakota Fox News at 9, I'm John Salling.
Other funding options to foot the bill include turning more interstates into toll roads and charging fees at rest stops. There's a new fitness trend out, and it's totally trash. It's called plogging, and it combines jogging with picking up garbage. It encourages people to stop jogging to pick up trash by lunging and squatting. Henry, it doesn't take much to encourage me to stop jogging.
To stop jogging?
So
Yeah,
I'm on board
come on.
with
You got to have a little more motivation than that. Come on. I know you can do it.
I don't.
Well, we got to work on that. Hey, with the weather the way it's looking right now, maybe we can work on that, at least until we get into the second half of the weekend. Yes, cold, but we will eventually recover by Thursday. And then, who knows, afterwards, we could be getting more snow.
Next Thursday, that's jogging weather. You can jog, and then I'll pick up the trash.
I think we'll do the other way.
Resting heart rate. We'll see you next week.